Thanks for joining us today, guys. Today we are joined by Kwame Christian, and I'm excited for him to share. Comes from a little bit different background that we haven't had on the show before. So again, excited for him to share a little bit about his story. So Kwame, you mind introducing yourself to the audience and giving them a little background on yourself?
Yeah, Liam, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. So my name's Kwame Christian. I am the founder and CEO of the American Negotiation Institute, where we conduct negotiation, consulting, and coaching that makes your difficult conversations easier. Which difficult conversations, you ask? All of them. we have a we have a really diverse background of clients too. So we have the classic transactional business negotiations. We also have some negotiations with people who are just having leadership discussions, and we've started to dabble in conflict resolution with regard to diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. I'm also host of the top-ranked negotiation podcast in the world, Negotiate Anything. And listeners, if I have my way, Liam will be a guest on my show, hopefully, if everything goes well. So really excited to be here, my friend.
Yeah, appreciate it. What's the most difficult conversation topic that's been brought to you that you look back and you're like, that one was a doozy?
Oh, it's easy. It's the conversations with partners, like your spouses, husbands, wives, whatever it happens to be. Those are the toughest ones. And I love asking the guests on the podcast what's their toughest conversation, because they all say the same thing. It's always the ones with family and friends, because our emotions are higher because the stakes are higher. And then always, usually, think about it, we usually have these conversations late in the day when we're tired and already a little bit annoyed and stressed, so we're not at our best. We gave everybody our best beforehand, and now we're just out of our best. And then we fall apart in these conversations. And for the listeners too, as a small business lawyer and a small business owner myself, the conversations with our partners, our business partners, are going to be really tough. And I think my mentor, he described it the best. He said, the relationship you have with a business partner is second only to the relationship you have with your spouse. Like, it is that close. And those conversations can get really dicey sometimes if you don't know how to handle it.
Yes, they do. It can be challenging. I've been through them myself. I think for me, the toughest is when you're dealing with a irrational person, or for me personally, someone who's hugely emotional, because I'm very logical, and it just doesn't connect sometimes and makes it really tough.
Yes, and to that point, when you're dealing with an irrational person, I just call those conversations with humans, Liam. We all have those ones. Yeah, for sure. There's a system and a framework that makes it a little bit easier, but it's still tough. Those emotions make things really, really challenging.
Yeah, as you can see, my day-to-day is challenged because I deal with humans every day. Um, so jumping right in, right? Obviously, you've experienced a lot of success, right, in your legal career and starting a new entity and running your own business, right? Coaching profession, writing profession. As you were going through that and you reached the point of have to worry about roof over the head, food on the table, you had some sizable cash flow that's now coming in. What was your strategic framework that you used in terms of where to invest it and where to put the cash?
Well, the first thought process, I like to think about these things in a really intellectual type of way, Liam. I fancy myself to be an intellectual. And the first thought was this. I said, oh my gosh, I have money, let's spend it. That was my first thought. And I wish it was a bit more nuanced than that, but it's really not, if I'm being completely honest. So here's how it goes. And I think a lot of our listeners could appreciate this too. So imagine this situation. So I graduated from the Ohio State University. I have my undergrad degree in psychology, law degree, master of public policy. All of my friends go and do big law. I do some civil rights stuff. And then I say, you know what? I'm going to start my own law practice, start my own company. And then my wife, she's a doctor. We met at OSU. And so we have this whole, vision going forward, a doctor and a lawyer. We're supposed to be dripping in opulence, right? And then I decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to be 27 years old and I'm going to start my own law firm and my own consulting firm in negotiation. Okay. All right. And we have a baby. So that was a tough conversation. So my wife trusted me a lot to go through with that. That wasn't easy for her. But then when the money started rolling in, it's like, it is time to show Whitney that all of it wasn't in vain. So there was a lot of spending, and we're not materialistic people, but I think there was like there was a little bit of vengeful spending, not vengeful against Whitney or anything, but against like you as a small business owner, you always feel like you're going against society to a certain extent, because I mean the odds are not in our favor for success. It's like, I made it. It feels good now to splash money on Whitney and things like that. So we bought a house, a nice house. That was great. Bought nicer cars. Whitney gave a car to her mom, which she really enjoyed, and we leveled up in that way. I gave a car to my mom too. So there were some of those types of spending things, more traveling, things like that. But I realized that when I first started making money, there was a lot of, hey, Whitney, I got you. I got you for your patience. And so that was the beginning. But then I started to get a little bit more targeted, I should say, with how I spent that discretionary income.
Yeah. So as you fast forward, right, and obviously now you've got a house and you've got a nicer car and your wife's got a nicer car. What came next?
Employees. More employees, because we're thinking about scale, and that's is the best investment you can make, investing in your team. It's challenging, it's scary, especially as a small business owner. You're constantly thinking about the monthly cash flow. What does it take to substantiate getting an employee, those type of things. So investing in human capital was really important, and probably the best investment that I made, because it's not just investing in the talent of the team, but it's also investing in your leadership skills, because that's, again, there's a difference between being good at your craft and being a good leader. Like those are different skills, and the best way to learn it is by doing it, and so there were just some lessons that I learned on leadership that I could not have gotten from a book. I actually had to go through those types of things myself. So investing in the team was a big part of of where the discretionary income went. Then I also was able to do a lot more charitable work. So we have a research associate on our team. She is in Nigeria, and so we were able to put on a peace building program that she created herself, but we funded it. She started a whole nonprofit called Peace Shapers, and we were able to partner with the United Nations to put on this 2-day boot camp, teaching young people how to resolve conflict peacefully and be leaders in their community. So it's really great. And so it's really helped to facilitate more of a global impact, which is really, really exciting. And I tell my team all the time that the money that we make fuels our generosity. That's always the goal. We need to make more money so we can reach more people. And we've been able to facilitate more and more of those types of opportunities as we become more and more successful.
That resonates with us, right? So our company, DML, everything is about enriching the lives of others, right? And to your point, you can enrich more lives when you've got more resources at hand, right? Whether that's time, whether that's money, right? Whatever that may be, and driving that forward. So it's awesome, always awesome to hear when someone else is, doing something similar and amplifying, right, that effect out in the world.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it feels good. It feels good to be able to do that. But again, it was a challenge to get here, but we made it.
As you lost my train of thought for a second there. Where's I going? This is bad. Sorry, we're gonna edit this part out.
It's all good. Listen, it's edited, so we're good.
It was we're going back to employees. So as you were looking to invest in employees, what was the thought process that you had in terms of scaling, right? Did you go right to hiring folks? Did you, have a business need that was there? Were you drowning and you needed help? And how quick did you, expand that operational payroll?
It's funny that you asked this question now, because I'm realizing that as somebody who prides himself in being a strategist, my answer is going to be unsatisfying. And so it was just realizing that I had a need and filling those emergency gaps, oh my gosh, we need this right now. A lot of times I've been being too stingy, and then my head's about to explode and I realize, hey, there's a better way to do this. You have money, pay people. you know? And so it's either like I'm drowning and I need somebody, or kicking and screaming, okay, fine, I'll do it. I'll make this investment in the company. But now I would say of late, probably in the last, let's say 8 months, it's been a lot more nuanced and intentional, because we started to get to a point of more consistent revenue coming in, where I could say, all right, I know what it takes to get to the next level at this point. It's going to take this person doing this type of thing. We need somebody in sales. We need an initial person in operations in order to facilitate those sales growth, that sales growth. We recognize the majority of our leads were coming from the podcast. So let's amplify what we're doing with the podcast, go from 1 show a week to 5 shows a week, and then create new shows as well. And so we're realizing that we have a really strong advantage on LinkedIn with the podcast and things like that. And so we wanted to go deeper into our content marketing strategy. And so for Liam, in the last, let's say 3 or 4 years, I went from about 5,000 followers on LinkedIn to 73,000 ish, just because I've been focusing on creating more content. I have more time to create higher level content. And some people would say, oh my gosh, I love that post. I was like, yeah, that post took 2 hours to write. Okay, so it's not an accident. The more effort you put in, the wider the reach. But again, that people just think about it, oh, Kwame made a post. They don't realize how much time it took to make that post, and how much help I have from my team that gives me that much time to write those types of posts. So it's been more intentional in the past 8 months, making sure that we're being strategic about the way that we're growing, and then the keyword of scaling, because I have only so much time in a day. I have a growing family, a 1-year-old, a 6-year-old, and I need to make sure that I'm not spreading myself too thin. It's tempting to say, you know what, I'm going to do everything because the margins on everything are great. Then I don't need to pay a trainer. But that's not how time works, Liam. Just not how time works. So I need to figure out how to scale, empower the team to sell, and those type of things.
What was the first role that you hired for? Right? Was it, hey, there's something I do for my business I'm not great at, or there's something I do for my business that I really don't like? Or was it like, hey, this is where we're going to grow the most, go hire this person?
All of the above. And it was a virtual assistant. So I knew that I was going to leave my job and start my own company. And so I actually started demoing this virtual assistant then with my with the work from my old employer. Don't share this with anybody, Liam, please. Don't share that I outsourced my work.
Okay. He says on a public podcast.
Exactly. But it worked really well. And Casey Marie is still with us. And right now we're working on the immigration papers to bring her here full time. She's in Jamaica, so it's a crazy story, but 7 years later, she's been with us longer than the American Negotiation Institute has been in existence. But she's been like the secret to my success, because I'm not a naturally organized person as the lawyer. Like, paperwork is not my friend. And so having her to keep me organized behind the scenes has been exceptionally helpful.
So as you look at where you're at today and the things that you're investing in, is it still people, expanding the org, growing the business, or has that focus or priority shifted as that, total profitability has increased as well?
Yeah, to a certain extent. We aren't hiring a full-time person, not for the next few months at least. I hired a fractional CFO, and she made that very clear to me, which is good. It's nice to have an adult in the room to help me to make these decisions, because I realized that I was gunslinging and hoping for the best. And so the thing is that we have the people on our team to do what we need to do. We work with a number of consultants who aren't full-time. We have a lot of people who do kind of virtual assistant type of work for us as well. And so we have some creative ways to save on money while still getting the job done. So I think it's about scaling responsibly at this point, and being really mindful about the cost of delivery of the services, just to make sure that everything looks good, and making sure that as we grow, we understand like what that next role is going to be. For instance, we need another customer success person to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our clients, assuming that the salesperson that we just hired starts to give us that return. And we know he will be started to close deals already. And so we're going to need somebody more internal operations wise. And then once we get that really structured based on the new need from the salespeople, then we could hire sales. So we understand what the next moves are, but we also understand like what the financial benchmarks are for us to really do that responsibly.
So if the business doesn't need the investment today, is there other places that you're taking it and putting it, or are you just stockpiling?
Yeah, it's definitely going into other things. So one of the things that we're focusing on is we have a book coming out in September, How to Have Difficult Conversations About Race. So like I said, we started doing more diversity, equity, and inclusion work, but focusing on how people can connect and understand each other. It's skills-based, not rules-based, not saying how you should think or anything like that, but saying, hey, these are the fundamentals of difficult conversations. This is how you can communicate across difference between cultures, things like that. So it's important work just in general, but I think it's very strategic for our company, because if we were able to hit the bestseller list, then that puts us at a place to substantiate a much higher cost for me. And that creates a little bit more differentiation where we can charge me at a certain price and then our trainers at another price. So there's a lot of money going into the book launch for that. The other thing would be we're going to hire an educational consultant to help us to standardize the trainings, because I realized that I can give a training, but training a trainer on how to give a training is not my strength, because like my slides for my presentation, it's like an engaging picture and a question. I'm like, yeah, look, you read the question, you answer it, you be charismatic, and that's it. That doesn't help. That's not how you train people, Liam. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I need to get somebody in here who does, so we can create really coherent content that delivers on the educational value that we wanted to deliver on, so we can shore that up, but also making it so that it's replicable. So people know that they're getting the ANI experience. And if they get this trainer and they're doing this training, regardless of the trainer they're getting, they understand it's going to meet a certain quality. And so we're going to need to get somebody in there to work on that. So that'll help with scalability. And then the book launch will help with revenue.
So the book launch is really designed to drive some of that top line and putting a lot of dollars into the marketing of that to essentially continue to facilitate the top line growth.
Exactly. I'm. It's funny because people talk about book royalties, and it's a weird thing to me, because I'm like, oh, I haven't even thought about that. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just thinking about making sure that we get as many sales of the book as possible to facilitate more sales of trainings down the road. That's really the end game for me with that book.
Has anything changed on the personal side? Right now, obviously, the little one, when you started, is 6. You've got another one, right? That's repeating that 6-year pattern that you may have forgotten and are being reintroduced to, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, for sure. I cannot believe I didn't think about this. So, Liam, one of the things in the negotiation with Whitney, I mean, let's think about my family growth as a negotiation. The fact that we had 6 years between was the extent to which I could set boundaries, and Whitney's showing her negotiation prowess here. So we have another baby. But this was part of the deal. Said, all right, we need to have a nanny. So we need to have somebody with a nursing background who can take care of the baby at night, because Kwami without sleep is not a pleasant person to be around. And I miss my wife. It's lonely, And so even though you, Whitney, would like to kind of do this whole, parenting where you have to be killing yourself at night, we're at the point where financially we don't have to do that. So I would like to continue having a wife and sleeping. And so we were able to, she agreed. And so we have a nanny who comes like probably 5 days a week. So people are like, wow, Kwame, you seem well rested. I'm like, well, I am.
Intentional design.
Exactly. So yeah, that has been critical. So it's been great to just enjoy Dominic without feeling stressed about him that much, because he's in great hands. He's got a lot of love, support, and attention, and it didn't interrupt daily life that much.
Awesome. As we're approaching time and wrapping up, what's one thing you'd want to leave with the audience if you gave them one piece of advice as they're reaching this point of profitability? What would that be?
You know what, Liam? I think I'm going to go a different route than I think a lot of people would go with this one. And this was something that my business coach suggested that I do. It's okay to spend money on yourself. It's okay to be selfish in a positive way when you've earned it. And so I think there's selfishness gets a bad rap, but when you think about the term like selfish, like it's just looking out for yourself. You can do it in a way where you have a negative impact on people. Now that's bad. I'm talking about positive selfishness. So think about like, you know, self-care. That's not a bad thing. Taking care of yourself, right? That's essentially what we're talking about. And so whenever I was making more money, and my accountant told me this too, they're like, you're leaving too much money in the bank account. You're just putting and reinvesting all of this money back into the business. I understand what you're trying to do, but you earned this. You should take it and spend it. And I've like, there's a great book called Profit First. And that was one of the rules that the author said. He said, listen, when you get profit, this is not meant for responsible spending. It's okay to give yourself something nice. And so treat yourself, be really honest about what those things are that you enjoy. And again, as a business owner, we're very selfless. We're focused on making sure that our family has enough so they can eat. We're making sure that our employees have enough so they can survive. We don't want to have to do layoffs and those type of things. We're constantly thinking about others, but we don't take the time to think about ourselves. So buy something nice for yourself, go on a nice trip, enjoy it so you can actually look and say, I'm not just working for a living, right? I'm enjoying the life that I've created.
At the end of the day, money's there to enhance the life, right? And serve the life, not the other way around. So that's, yeah, we did the same thing. Friday, we just decided we were going to go stay at a nice place, and we stayed on a yacht for a night with the boys and just had a great time. So completely get that, understand that. And it's critical, right? It goes along the lines of what you were saying of hiring a nanny, right? Self-care, of getting sleep, right? Probably one of the most important things you can do for yourself. So kudos to you on that. As we're wrapping up here, Kwame, what's the best way for the audience to get in touch with you?
Yes, LinkedIn is the best way. Constantly posting on LinkedIn. Also, if you're interested in working with us, we introduced a training program too, because usually we've been working with big corporations doing trainings at a higher price point, but now we have coaching programs too. It's nice to work with small business owners because those are my business roots, Liam. So yeah, feel free to reach out and connect. And if you're interested in working with us, check out the contact form on our website, americannegotiationinstitute.com. And also, free gift for your listeners. If you go to our website, americannegotiationinstitute.com/guide, they can get access to all of our free negotiation guides. So business negotiation, conflict resolution, how to negotiate as an introvert. It's like 15 free guides. So make sure you check those out.
Awesome. And when does the book drop?
Book drops September 13th, but pre-order is available. So I'll make sure to give you a link so we could put in the description. But yes, pre-orders are preferable. That helps with the overall strategy. So I'm not ashamed to say it explicitly. If you buy it, please buy it pre-order. So I'll give you the link, Liam.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks, Kwame.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, buddy.